Okay. So today, we are going to resume looking at our power of life. 2 weeks ago, I began exploring the light of life. Our 12 spiritual powers, and there's belief that there are so many more powers than that, but they're aspects of the divine. And because there is only one power and one presence, and all life emanates from that, we are never separate from the divine, and we have those innate powers within us, and they're always operating all at the same time. But when we begin to understand them and live intentionally into them, it is when it allows us to live into our Christ nature, our divine nature, our Buddha nature, our most high, true self, authentic nature, all ways to say the same thing. So a couple weeks ago, I spoke of our power of life, and we explored these aspects of our power of our life. It's our ability to embody presence. We talked about what presence was. Our ability to animate and to create. And now this week, we will go into vitality, to vitalize, and what does it mean when we talk about wholeness, to embody wholeness. So before we go into those two new aspects, for those who maybe weren't here, I'm just going to do a little bit of a review. And so let us take a look at, when we talk about presence, to embody presence. So first off, we know that there's one power and one presence, one life force, God. And some of the synonyms we hear is that it is the invisible life source. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, in their writings, calls God the divine substance under all life. Other metaphysicians or New Thought teachers or authors also call it the universal life force, the presence of pure energetic life potential waiting to be tapped into. And Emily Cady, author of Lessons in Truth, states this: God is spirit, or the creative energy that is the cause of all visible things. God as spirit is the invisible life and intelligence underlying all physical things. So everything in physical form has its origins in divine presence, God. So each one of us is the embodiment, the very essence of the divine in expression. And so when we say individualized expression, it means that even though all of us come from the one source, one power, one presence, and that we can't be separate. We see our bodies as physically separate, but energetically, we are all part of the same whole. However, it doesn't mean sameness. An individualized expression means that we are unique in how we tap into that energetic presence, God, how we uniquely live the life that we were given, how we create the divine ideas that come to us. Maybe we may have a similar divine idea to be a writer, perhaps, but no two writers use their gift the same way. And if you've watched any sporting event and have listened to the Star Spangled Banner, how many different artists have sung that song, but no two are alike? That is individualization. It is God individually working in and through each person. And I love this. Ilia Delio, she's a Franciscan nun, but she is a theologian and also into the study of science and merges them. And she has created an online school called the Center of Christogenesis, meaning that we are all here to be the living expression of the one, whether we call it Christ, Buddha, so on and so on. And she says this in an article: we were created uniquely and distinctly because without each one of us, the world would be incomplete. And she dares to even go further. If we are all part and aspects of the whole, we were created uniquely and distinctly because without each one of us, God would be incomplete. It's pretty powerful, isn't it? Sometimes we don't think our presence matters at all, right? How many times do we play small in our lives or think, how am I going to make a difference? We have, wars going on in the Middle East, and God only knows what's going on in our Congress. It's the political season. It seems like it's always the political season, right? And so we can get so overwhelmed by not just the circumstances of the world, but our own circumstances. And so we kind of tune out. We can distract ourselves. And we can falsely believe that our presence really doesn't matter, but it does. So what does it mean to consciously embody presence? Well, first of all, each one of us are individualized expressions, meaning that also, if you want to get down to it, that what we are energizing with thought or feelings, spoken word, or we can energize a room without speaking as well, right? Our actions all create an energetic resonance that speaks even beyond our words, right? And so we know that our presence can be healing, it can be soothing, it can be empowering, it could be I see you, I hear you, or it can be harming, right? Have you ever been in a room where people were gossiping? And maybe if you weren't one who was really into it, you felt like, ooh, this doesn't feel right. And then later, if maybe you were one who is participating in judgment, meaning in a critical form, because we're always making judgments, right? Discerning, that's another way of saying it. But when we are being critical of ourselves and others, that creates presence in us. Some days, if I am, doesn't happen frequently these days, but there are days. The beginning of the week, I was in a significant amount of pain. And when I went to the vascular surgeon, I found out that it's been 2 weeks. I don't know, some of you may not know, but I was diagnosed with a blood clot behind my left knee. And then Matt's car broke down, and I was not in a good mood. And it was, usually, okay, these are happening here. I mean, I don't do a spiritual bypass. I'm with it. But it was one of those days in which I chose to kind of just put the covers over for a little while. But then I couldn't stand being in that space. It just was, not because I didn't love myself, but I just know anyway, so little bit by little, moving, just reframing things, embracing what is with love and with kindness, instead of wishing something away. Slowly, I felt presence. I can sense the divine presence that is always palpable, but also my divine presence that knows that in every moment, all is well. May not be in the physical circumstances, but in spirit, that knowing nothing changed, but all is well. And symptoms shifted and so on, but that wasn't the intent. And so when we also talk about presence, we must know that we too, we may have physical form, and there's that physical presence, but each one is an eternal presence. Our soul lives on. Those that we just celebrated, and I spoke that they are alive, right? Different form, different way. And last week, or a couple weeks, I shared some of those examples. And I'll share one more that where they uniquely make their presence known to us. And this was a different one. I haven't shared. I know I've shared many of them, but I guess my boys were about 8 years old, and I was already divorced for several years. And my ex-mother-in-law had just passed away 3 days before. They had a relationship, or I wouldn't say that they were real close, but I had quite a bond with her, and she had quite a fondness anyway. And so we were, at the time I was living in Freehold, and we were walking, and I see this woman coming towards us, and it was the spitting image of Dolores, my ex-mother-in-law. Like, I didn't say anything, but it was like, oh my goodness. And then I start talking to her, and then my sons, Michael and George, is like, Mommy, that looks like Grandma Dolores. Sometimes it can take, the shape of a form or a song or words that you hear so clearly in that visiting in our experience. So I ask you, do you ever think about how will my presence matter today? How checking in. You know how that fragrance or cologne of perfume, I wonder what kind of fragrance I am emanating and vaporizing my surroundings with and my inner with. It's just something to check into. And so last week, I shared this, 2 weeks ago, a powerful video. If you look here on the left, all the way in the corner, you'll see both of the pictures on the left are a gentleman named Arthur Borman. And the picture over there where he's overweight with crutches, we watched this very powerful video in which it tells the story that Arthur, if very appropriate today to mention him again, served 17 years in the Army as a paratrooper. And what he did was he would parachute into warring zones, and he would kind of like find out about where, quote unquote, the enemy was at camp, bring back surveillance information. And in many of those parachuting episodes, he got injured so many times that his injuries were so severe that he could not walk unassisted. And in fact, the doctors said that he would never be able to walk unassisted ever again. And so we see in the beginning of this video, his presence is one of victim, right? The energy, the scent of hopelessness. I don't matter. Does my life matter? It was unspoken, right? And then that animating life force, which we're going to review in a minute, that urge to know more of the truth of myself, despite appearances, is alive. And so he decides to do this research, mind-body healing approach, and he discovers this gentleman here, Dallas Diamond Page, who said, no, I think I can help you. So his presence was one of empowerment, inspiration, life-giving. His presence was life-giving. And why could he hold that himself? Because he was a wrestler who sustained injuries and so severe, and he didn't know whether he could, maybe wasn't as severe as Arthur, but healed himself as well. So we're going to talk about animation. We're going to review that. So like I said, as Arthur is sitting there, you know, he became a couch potato, so to speak, but nevertheless, the whisper of that life force, God, the one life force and presence, is always expanding. When they look out at, what is the, Charlie, you'll know this, I'm losing it, begins with an H, where they study the universe. Not the telescope. Does anybody know? I can't, anyway. It's what the scientists use to study the universe, and they can measure that it's always expanding, growing. The divine, what is it? The thank you. Thank you. So it's always expanding and moving and growing, and because we are divine, present, and expression, that urge, that animating urge within us to know more of the truth of who we are, to live and to step into wholeness, which we're going to talk about in a moment, is always active. Even when we try, right? Undeveloped life is a state of stagnation, which was what Arthur was experiencing as the couch potato. Anyway, he was just, stuffing, and he almost became 400 pounds. So he was really feeling like, does my present matter? And then that little animating spark was, well, I think there's something more. There's something more. What do I still want to give life to? So he starts with Diamond Dallas Page, and then he begins studying education, and he becomes a special education teacher, right? His how shifted, but his evolutionary desire, let me be the light, was still active in him very powerfully. And so now we're going to take a look at, so there are those pictures. Maybe we can shift and I could show those pictures there. So there we see that evolution. He becomes the teacher, and now he's even an instructor. And so when we look into, I'm going to show these next slide of images. Okay. So I want you to be honest with me. You don't have to, you can put yes in the chat or raise your hand. How many of you, when you see individuals who are different able-bodied, who are displaying some form of dis-ease, either mentally, emotionally, or physically, have a challenge with seeing that individual as whole? I see a couple hands. And here's the clue. If you avert your eyes, or you find it hard to look, or you find yourself staring, or you subconsciously or out loud say, poor thing, gosh, thank God, not me. Or you see someone who is exhibiting some physical conditions, and you may say something a little bit more spiritual. I wonder if they're not going to the right holistic doctor, taking the right supplements, trying the right modality. Maybe they need to read this book, and they will be better. Right? I know I have experienced, I have a limp, and I will be sometimes greeted with, oh, you're still limping. What energy does it have? It's negative. Now, I know some people in their own way want to be helpful, right? But does that hold me in the light of compassion? Really? No. When I went to get my hair done a couple of weeks ago, it was like a day after I was diagnosed with the blood clot, and she's spiritually minded, and she's a lovely person, and wanted to do the whole Louise Hay thing. What are you blocking in your life, Angela? Trust me, if there's anyone who doesn't do an inner deep dive, now am I perfect? No. Right? And in that moment, I just wanted to get my hair done. I didn't want to talk about it. And that's the spiritual way. Now, I'm not saying there's never a time to mention anything, but how might we greet people? And that's mild. The picture here on the left, this is Joy Waller, and this is her daughter. Joy passed about 2 years ago now. She was a force to be reckoned with in the unity movement. She was a unity minister. She was a lawyer. She served on so many different boards for the rights for the different able-bodied people. She had a radio show on unity, wrote articles, served as the president of the Unity Eastern Region Board. When you were in her presence, you did not experience disability. And she wrote a profound article about radical wholeness. I'll share one of the quotes. I did share that maybe about a year ago. But I want us to rethink that sometimes, right? And so here, who recognized the picture of this gentleman here? Who can recognize that image? Stephen Hawking's, right. Stephen Hawking, many of you know the story, right? Well, first of all, he was one of the most brilliant minds in the world. He was the most brilliant physicist there was. He studied cosmology, and cosmology is looking at the universe as a whole, which is what he decided to look at himself as whole. At the age of 21, he was diagnosed with a motor neuron disease, also called Lou Gehrig's disease. And he told him and his family to put his affairs in order and that he would have 2 years to live. Well, he defied the odds, and he died in 2018 at the age of 76. Pretty amazing. He put his life energy, he animated, right? He knew his wholeness. In fact, he shares this quote, which I find to be amazing. My advice to other disabled people would be concentrate on things your disability doesn't prevent you from doing well, and don't regret the things it interferes with. Don't be disabled in spirit as well as physically. How many of us have a life circumstance, and not only physically, whether it be finances, something in our bodies, or whatever it may be, that's it, right? And we become spiritually disabled as well. So wholeness, Robert Brummett and other unity teachers and authors say that wholeness is another name for our true identity, our authentic self, our divine identity. It is the eternal us, the eternal you, which can never be impacted by physical circumstances. And when we look at, well, before I go to Reverend Linda Martella-Whitsitt, Robert Brummett said that suffering comes from us only focusing on our human circumstances. Suffering comes from, now I'm not talking about pain, because we do feel nerve pain and stuff, but suffering comes from only thinking we are human in form. And so Reverend Linda Martella-Whitsett shares this: wholeness means that nothing essential is missing. We are complete, containing all necessary components. We are a whole, intact. We are whole and intact regardless of any material condition that would appear otherwise. Our wholeness is assured by virtue of the life principle that is incorruptible, immutable, and eternal. It is our true nature, our divine nature, our eternal essence. And then she reminds us of this: wholeness is not always obvious to us, because we're navigating between the worlds, physical, human, spiritual. We have to look with spiritual eyes to detect vitality, especially when someone appears to be less than whole. And from the amazing Joy Waller, radical wholeness is the idea that wholeness can present in a variety of physical expressions. The language of radical wholeness allows each of us to discern for ourselves where our spiritual wholeness might seek greater expression. And just a little side note, because this woman, Joy, had inspired me in so many ways. She advocated, if you go on the Unity grounds, the only way up to, unless you go through the tunnel, which what she did, but she loved the fountains and the rose gardens, but wanted there to be an elevator for people to do that right from the ground floor, rather than having to go through all the underground tunnels. And there's underground tunnels because Lee Summit is in Tornado Alley or territory. And finally, there has been money raised to have that happen. So see, her legacy also lives on. So when we move into vitality, which is the last aspect we're going to talk about, that is the aspect of our power of life. It is our capacity to thrive regardless of circumstances, and how we use our life energy, right? That's that word, wield. And vitality is about living into our intentions. Vitality is directing our life energy to bringing divine ideas, or those spiritual ideas that tap at the door of our heart. Jen had the divine idea to go back to school, to become a social worker, and she is so close to finishing her first year. Yay. And with passion, she is talking about her internship with such enthusiasm, right? That vitality, living with purpose. How many of you have that divine idea or inspiration come maybe at 3 a.m. in the morning, maybe 12 a.m., 1 a.m.? It could come in the middle of the day too, it could come anytime. Perhaps it might be you want to write a new sci-fi thriller. And so you're all excited, and you set the intention, I'm going to write for 2 hours every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you're all gung-ho, you're directing. See, zeal is our enthusiasm, motivation, and our passion to get going, but the life force, animation, vitality is what takes it to the next step, right? Along with will, determination, choice, and all our other powers, faith, assurance, and knowing that I have that creative gift and I can go on and on, right? But that vitality of intention, living into that life idea, all of the aspects of life, animating it, creating it, knowing I'm whole, knowing let me be the light as a writer, all of that is alive. And then 2 weeks in, I don't know what to write. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. I don't really have the money anyway. Wah, wah. Anybody have that? Ever happened to them? Yeah. And so in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 10, it is believed that Jesus' teaching was, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I, the I am, came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Those thieves, metaphysically, are those lack and fear thoughts. When we forget our wholeness, we believe we are incapable because of physical circumstances. Those are the thieves that visit, that kill our dreams, kill our joy, could ruin not just a moment, a whole day, a week, so on and so on. And so I ask you, as we begin to come to a close, what are the thieves that are trying to steal your desires, your dreams? And where are you stifling your light? Don't put your light under a bushel basket. Put it on a city of the hill and let it shine. When we say, let there be light, let me be the light of life, the light of faith, let me be is our vital force, knowing the truth and directing our life energy to be it. And so again, as we come to that close, how can you courageously empower and direct your life energy? And how are you being called to embody wholeness despite physical circumstances? All powerful reflections. And do we not have many opportunities again and again? Because I'll be the first one to say, living in this physical world can bring so many joys. Some of us may curse our feelings sometimes, but would you do that when you feel pure joy, pure connection, love, beauty at the depths of your soul? And so guess what comes with that? Sometimes we feel fear, we feel anxiety, but will we allow it to rob us of being the presence? And this is not about spiritual bypassing. We look at the thief of fear. We look at the thief of anxiousness. And what are you here to teach me? Maybe it's about being more loving to myself. Maybe it's about taking things one step at a time and thinking I'm going to leap jump right to the end. Aha, ta-da, it's over, right? And so I'd like to close with a poem called Embrace the Dawn. And this was actually written by ChatGPT. I put in words to look for a poem, and it wrote one for me, and it's quite beautiful. Embrace the dawn. In the tender break of morning light, where shadows fade and dreams take flight, a spark ignites within our core to live with purpose, seek out more. With every breath, a chance anew to chase our passions, see them through. Vitality within our veins, fueling heartbeats, breaking chains. Embrace each moment, let it shine. with fervor every step divine, with fervor, for life is fleeting, swift in pace, a journey we must not disgrace. In laughter, tears, in joy and pain, find meaning in the sun and rain. For in these moments, truth we find, a tapestry of heart and mind. Live boldly, let your spirit soar. With every sunrise, strive for more. For in this dance of life's embrace, we carve our legacy, we leave our trace. And breathing in as we prepare for meditation. Bringing your awareness to your body temple. And breathing in and breathing fully out. Sensing your feet. Grounded, grounded, grounded. Sensing the small of your back. And the vitality of life flowing from the base of your spine. Oh, up, 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 up to the back of your upper back, into your neck, to the top of your head. Knowing that as above, so below. As you walk between the worlds, fully human and fully divine. And oh, what a gift it is to walk between the worlds with all of its messiness, its pain, its suffering, its joy, its beauty, its awe and magnificence. And oh, what a gift it is to be given this life. And as I speak I invite you to allow my words to be your words as we claim oneness. And oh, I embrace my sacred humanity, warts and all, beauty and all, and I open to the animating presence, the vital life force, wholeness itself. And because there is only one power and one presence, I am that life expressing, oh, uniquely. And what a gift it is to choose how I will be the presence of the Most High each and every moment and every breath I take. Oh, let me animate love and compassion. Let my words vibrate kindness, curiosity, understanding. And let me listen to that sometimes silent and sometimes very loud urge to expand, to step into a greater expression of the light of life itself. Oh, when I say, let me be the light. And I get to choose. I get to choose how I will be that light. What flavor, what essence. And so as I breathe in and breathe out, let me welcome myself home to knowing that I am whole and complete. Yes, let me nurture that truth as I sit in the stillness. And breathing in and breathing out. Let me give life to love, to creative ways of bringing beauty into this world through my writing, through my words, through my silent presence. Breathing in and breathing out. Allowing gratitude and appreciation to fill me on all levels of being. For I celebrate the gift of life I am, and I celebrate that I am the light of the world. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen. And breathing in and breathing out, stretching your arms, moving your body in whatever way feels right for you. And when you are ready, slowly opening your eyes and greeting yourself and whoever may be around you with the silent gift of love. Namaste. Now I invite Jen back up.